How's it going, everybody? I had a little bit of extra time today, which is rare for me. In raised beds, sorry, the stream cut out for a second. But anyway, I figured maybe so that if anybody pops in here, I don't know if they will, I don't have a lot of followers, but if anybody pops in here, I'm more than happy to talk to you about what I'm showing you. If you got any questions, then I'll respond to that. If not, I'll just post this as a video so that maybe some people can enjoy it post-op. Okay, so again, this is organic garden. There's no chemicals in here. I'm on a hill, we're on some terraces, and there has been a few things that have happened. Like there was a mudslide on the hill that caused there to need to be some reinforcement work done, and during this a lot of the dirt got dug off the hill against my will, and it created a lot of erosion problems for me. So I'm dealing with all these erosion problems. I'm doing a lot of organic raised bed, like cropping out of plants, getting them really nice and ready for harvest. And then I'm also doing a lot of natural farming, which is just like throwing the seeds out and letting plants grow where they're at. And so I'm stoked to show you guys a bunch of that. So not only do I have, let's look at it right here, I've got these raised beds right here and these two kind of terraces, and then also there's a lot of hill space down here that I'm not necessarily farming on, but I am trying to move into that direction more and more as time goes on. And I am doing a lot to just try to enrich the soil, make it more accessible and make it more biodynamic, so that I'm attracting lots of birds and lots of different other critters down into that area to help this area thrive a little more. So you can see I've got my raised beds. That's where I'm doing a lot of my vegetables and my annuals. And then down here, I've got herbs all along the edges right here. There's tons and tons and tons of gophers out here. So anything that's not like one of these herbs that they don't really seem to like, the Lamaceae mint family herbs like lavender, rosemary, sage, they don't tend to go for those because it's too oily, I guess, but they will eat anything else that you plant out here. And so you got to be prepared, and that's why I've got the raised beds. The raised beds have a little bit of hardware cloth at the bottom so that the gophers can't get up. Besides that, we're also dealing with lots of other critters. There are skunks in this area, and they have been up in here, and I've seen them up here, and they will just dig everything up in your garden. So I'm hopefully going to get a fence going up right in this area so that I can prevent them from getting in here. But it might not be a skunk at this point. It might be a ferret. Somebody, when we were working on this place, said they saw a ferret here. So for that reason, I am dealing with some major critter potential out here, and that's why I've also got these wires around the beds to protect from the larger critters. All right, so let's get into it. First off, I've got a little 3-year-old nectarine tree right here that's dropping its leaves for the winter. I'm not even sure it's getting cold enough this year. We're having like a La Nina year, so it's going to be a little hotter and drier here in California. I keep all my trees mulched so that I can be selecting for the proper kind of environment to feed the fungi in the soil, making that nitrogen an ammonia source, ammonia nitrogen, that's going to be more bioavailable to these perennial plants. I do the same thing with my herbs over here. I'm making sure that they're getting access to the right things in that soil. I don't need to do much fertilization for these reasons, and the soil is heavily clay here, so mulching it is going to allow the earthworms and other things to come up through the soil, and they're going to be aerating that soil for me so that I don't have to deal with all the compaction and the runoff problems caused by clay and silty soils getting to the surface. So all around the garden, I've got things growing naturally. This ranges from things that I can eat, like this mustard right here. That's a great edible leaf right there. If the plants are looking rough on the side, I'll let them grow and maybe just use them for harvesting the seeds from. That way, I don't have to waste time in my beds growing things out to seed, and I can just let them go to seed on the side out here. It saves me a lot of space in my beds. Almost everything in this garden is usable, functional, edible, or medicinal, besides maybe these succulents right here. These are just fun. I call this my fractal garden. I got these in Santa Barbara years and years ago, and I've been keeping them around, so this has turned into a fun little thing over the years here. I like to do a lot of my root crops in these felt pots right here because you can keep them out of your beds where when you're harvesting them, you're going to disturb the roots of your other things. I practice a lot of no-till style growing in this area, so I don't like to disturb the roots. So here we got some onion sets out right here. We've got some horseradish that's going to come back, and ginger and turmeric, and these ones. Got this horse mint right here, which just sprouted on the hill, and I'm like, whoa, so pretty interesting. So Got lots of herbs right here getting ready to go out here. A lot of these I just get volunteers from my lavender bushes. So it helps me not have to buy lavender from the store, and I'm constantly getting new different genetics in there. So in this bed, I had some choy growing. It's starting to be, oh, thank you guys. Who asked? Nobody. But I'm doing it anyway. Isn't that how the internet works? And thank you, Jesse, for the respect. I appreciate that. So these choys grew really well here. This was my first time growing them. I did have some problems. I need to finish this off, but the tomato plants still are pretty leggy right there. They're still making tomatoes. So once I can fully close this off, then it's going to prevent the ferrets or the skunks or anything from getting in here. No, I don't play Fortnite. I haven't had a lot of time. This is like my video game right here. This is my Farmville or whatever the heck you want to call it. So I don't really have a ton of time. I'm a carpenter. I work full time, and then I do this, and hopefully I'll have some more time one of these days to play guitar or do something like that. So this is a Yodfa sprouting broccoli. I love these because they pop up really quickly. It's like a broccolini type, but this one's got a really thick stem, so it actually has like a really nice asparagus-like texture, and it's really sweet. Yodfa Chinese sprouting broccoli, love that. You can see some of my tatsoys growing in the cracks right there. Again, something that I let just go a little bit more wild, and I just hop in and harvest it when I need to. Moving on along, I got a tobacco right here that is going to seed. So these beds aren't as full as I'd like them to be, but I was a little bit behind on some of my planting, and also I was dealing with the skunks and the ferrets and all that jazz. So moving along, this needs to get replenished. I got some peppers. I'm still harvesting spicy chili peppers here in California in December. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but I've got the datil chili over there, and I've got the sugar rush peach behind there. You can see tomato plants still going, and I've got some boysenberries that I took from a cutting a few years ago. Now it's a huge bush. We'll visit that again in the spring. I like to let flowers grow where they can and where they'd like to. So it's a type of daisy. I can't remember the origins of the name on that one. Got some amaranth right here in the middle of winter as well. Sorry about that shaky camera. So yeah, this bed's about to get replenished. Due to those erosion things I mentioned earlier, I had to add some more wood to this one, and it's very out of level, but I'm still making it work. Got my pepper plants. You can see they're starting to overwinter, which I can tell that this plant is going to survive because of these little leaves forming right here. This is a sure sign to me that this plant is going to last until next year. And when you get those overwintered pepper plants, that's when you get these harvests that just keep going and going, like I mentioned previously. All right, let's move on along. I got broccolis in here. These broccolis are saved from my own seed collection of Di Chico broccolis. It's an Italian heirloom variety, medium-sized heads. So I'm stoked to be testing these out. It is hard for me, Corey, to measure actually the square footage of this garden because it's so hilled. So even if I were to get the actual square footage, it's not all plantable. So I'd say, well, thanks for being the only one watching. I will respond to your questions. So it's got to be less than a quarter acre. But then if you count this hill area, there's a little bit more space down there. It just isn't very functional because a lot of this is backfill from when they were building houses up in this area on this hill. And so it's not actual soil, and there's a lot of clay there too. So I deal with a lot of problems on the hill, especially with all those critters like I mentioned. So it's not a huge space, but it's large enough for me to grow a lot of my own food, a lot of my own herbs. I got another empty bed right here making me sad, but I do have some overwintered tomato plants right here. So that's not bad. And some of these peppers are gonna overwinter. This is gonna be all flushed out soon with some winter plants. Let's talk about overwintered tomatoes. Look at this guy. Why? What La Nina maybe is causing this. So anyway, I still got a tomato plant just kicking big time over here behind my broccolis in the same bed. I like to use these wood frame trellis. I just upcycle some wood, and then I bring the strings down, and I can choose a leader on the plant to bring up the string. I do my cucumbers and a lot of other things like this. Got some more of these flowers. This gets mowed no matter what. I don't understand what's going on over here, but I put some kale plants here in a gopher basket with a wire cage around, and they got mowed to nothing. So there are some other things going on that I don't quite have my finger on what's going on here. Check out this passion fruit right here. This thing is massive. I got this again a few years ago from a cutting from somebody in the neighborhood, and now this passion fruit vine literally goes from here all the way over here. and that's nice. And there is a bougainvillea behind it. I'm kind of just using that as a trellis. I don't really like those things. They're too freaking thorny. So come over here. This is a really tough area. Again, kale plants getting mowed. Nothing really growing in here besides some yarrow. I've had a lot of trouble with foragers in this area. I've got some of my wild growing arugula, so I can show you. Again, I save the stuff outside of the beds, let it go to seed. I harvest these seeds and I sell them. Bye, Corey. Thanks for checking in. I appreciate that. So I harvest these seeds and I sell them both on my website, and I just like to use them to give to people, or I spread them all around to get more volunteer patches. I got me some aloes over here, and this is actually an interesting thing that we could touch on right here. This is a peach tree that it totally died back, like gophers ate the roots or something, and then it started actually coming back from the base. And so I actually learned that at the base, you're not going to get the actual peach tree that you're trying to get. You're actually going to get the rootstock tree. So the rootstock tree is very strong, but it's not going to produce fruits for you that you want. I let this thing grow out a little bit just to see what it was going to do, and it did not make any peaches. However, in the course of doing that, this thing grew really big. It was coming up, it's getting massive out of the base again. This one started growing again. So I cut the rootstock tree back and I let the grafted tree, which is the variety, like I think it's August Pride or something, it's a yellow peach variety, I let that one grow. So now it's funny, this bush is actually doing pretty good here. I will be pruning this one up really soon. You're supposed to prune all those to be at a 45-degree angle or more vertical so that they have the right strength to hold up the fruits when they set. And fruit sets on red wood. That is some redwood second-year growth right there. So that is going to give me some fruits. So we'll see. Moving along, I've got garlics right here. These bad boys are just starting to pop up. I've got like 5 varieties of garlics growing, 3 hardnecks, 2 softnecks. It's going to be great. It's going to be exciting. So that's all caged off, should be protected. And it's going to be a good year for that. So I'm excited to follow up. Looking at some herbs over here, all mulched and all nice. Let's start over here. I got some sages, some lavenders, some of these flowering bushes over here, oregano, rosemary, thyme, and more of the same. Those are the herbs that I really like to use both for eating and also for my medicinal preparations like balms, tinctures, other things that I make. These, I got potatoes, gingers, and turmerics, and more onions. So we're almost done here, and then we're gonna go down to the bottom of the hill. Here's some Tulsi basil. I love growing this. You can see it's going to seed right here, so I can collect those seeds and either sell them, throw them around, and hopefully get more Tulsi. The bees love this. Whether it's the nectar or the pollen, they are just getting so much. They're always on this thing. Now that it's getting a little darker, they're not out here, but you know, during the day, they're always humming around. These Tulsi basil plants, and these are constantly flowering. You can use the leaves for tea, or you can eat them. The stems are a little bit more woody, but the leaves themselves are really tender, really nice. I've got some like purple carrots or black carrots growing in here, so I'm excited to see how those come out. Nice, looking good. All right, let's move along down to the hill, and we'll get going on some of the other more natural farming and just like soil building techniques. You can see I've got some extra plants sometimes that I'll just throw to the side. So I planted these here. These are volunteers. They're doing rough. They're kind of in the path, but it's all right. Down here's a good look at a lot of these volunteers coming up. So after I harvest my mustard seeds, I take the seed stalks and I just use them as mulch. And I do that for a lot of the different plants that I harvest the seed. Yeah, I like using the grow bags for my potatoes. And I think I'm going to try to do more sweet potatoes in them again, because the sweet potatoes took up my bed space for a long time. So I think that ended up being kind of a struggle. You can see I've got some pumpkins finishing up here. So these got planted a little bit later than I wanted to. And at the time when they should have been setting fruit, it was really humid. So they weren't getting pollinated. Things weren't working out right. They set these set in October, and they're just now finishing because it has been not as warm as it could have been to help them finish. So sweet, I guess I got some sugar pie pumpkins. Other things that are volunteering out here are dill. Love my volunteer dill. These things get really big and they're really awesome. As well as I've got some parsley volunteering out here. Although rabbits or something really love the parsley, they'll pick it out of all the other stuff. I wish that these critters would eat some more of my mustard. They don't They seem to leave that alone pretty good, which I guess is nice for me. Anyway, let's get down to the hill and let's get freaky with it. This is where I usually grow my potatoes. You see I got some small ones in here, but the potatoes don't like to grow in the middle of summer here. They actually like this winter weather, so I need to get planting some more of them. I just had a huge harvest recently, so all right. We got some railroad tie steps going down here, and you can see a little bit of the design on these terraces and the retaining wall that was put in after the mudslide and the erosion stuff happened a couple years ago. There are fruit trees down here, but do not judge me for these fruit trees. I did not do this to them. My dad planted these fruit trees out here and then dug them up and moved them like 3 times because he doesn't make decisions very well. So they're all dying. Hopefully I can get something else put in their place. I've got a bunch of blackberry bushes that I'm prepared to put all along this wall right here. And there are a few vining things as well, like flowering Mongolian jasmine or something. I can't remember the variety. So really wild here. Let's take a walk. We got lots of nasturtiums. I like to let these grow because they make a great just like chop and drop for me. They're really easy for me to control while also growing extremely vigorously and providing the shade for the other things to get sprouted. This path is always eroding. So this is a really tough one. No matter how much effort you put into making these paths, you just gotta do it again and again and again out here because they're gonna erode away. I love this tree right here. This is a lemon eucalyptus tree. So this is a delicious smelling eucalyptus and one of my favorites personally because the trees seems like you can control the size of them a little bit better. And this was just like a tree that got excavated, or not the right word, got you know, decapitated. There you go. It got totally chopped off and then it's just growing back from that rootstock, all these smaller branches, and these are really nice to have in the house. You can walk all the way to the end right here of kind of where the property line goes. You gotta watch your step. I might fall and eat crap right here. So, woo, into the jungle. Some more of these dead fruit trees that got damaged so sadly. So you can see like this is kind of the end of the property line. There's some trees, acacia trees that are really beautiful right here that flower, and we like to use them for our cut wreaths and different projects like that. All this nasturtium right here, so pretty. When this is flowering in the spring, it's just popping off. Nasturtium is edible and the flowers are edible too, although it's not one of my favorites personally. Just a really nice plant. They like to grow in the shade, so they're loving it right now during the winter. Go down some of the other paths where there's a little bit more going on, and then we'll close this out because that concludes the garden tour. So if I got like a weak bush, I'll take it out of its primetime spot and I'll throw it down on the hill. This one just got transported and so did that one, so they're looking a little rough, but my goal is to try to keep bringing more and more plants down here and stretching the growing zone down from here to here. It's just taking a whole lot of effort, so I have to go one step at a time. And one of the ways I'm doing this is by keeping cover crops growing nonstop to keep enriching the soil. I got these calendulas growing here. The nasturtium were here already, and I've just fostered them. The calendulas I brought here. Here's some more of those daisies that are the purple and white flowers. So that's a good ground cover that just will keep crawling down the hill bit by bit. So I've brought a lot of things here that volunteer. I've got arugulas volunteering down here all the time. So if my salads aren't popping up there, I can come and get some more down here, and I can let these ones go to seed for my seed harvesting. Here are some of those pretty nasturtium flowers that I was mentioning. Come in all sorts of colors, look like little eyelashes in there. Trip me out. And yeah, the calendulas are always popping all sorts of different colors, and you can use these for medicine. They're really good for your skin. They help you heal faster, apparently. Scientific. It's a lemonade berry bush. So this is a native plant here that the birds like. So I just like to foster it. It does pretty well. There's another one growing under the acacia right here. Here's a little path that is really sketchy as well and is gonna erode. But this takes us to my old compost pile that I'm no longer using because I don't live here anymore. So I've taken to composting at my house. This is still here as a relic. So here we are under the canopy of the trees. Lots of hummingbirds, lots of different birds. San Clemente is actually a bird sanctuary. So we see all sorts of birds out here, owls, hawks, vultures, and all the little varieties as well. So that's really fun. And the birds actually help with a lot of my pest control. They're always eating the worms off my plants, so I don't have to deal with them that much. So a couple other things. I got some more succulents down here, some lantana, that's a mint family that's really nice. A couple of these trees that I forget what they are, and we got these plumerias. So this hill was nothing when I got here, and not all of these are my plants, but I did take part in planting all the stuff on this hill that wasn't growing here already, which is literally just these trees and those nasturtiums. Not even these trees, just the lemonade berries, the acacia, and then the nasturtium. All the other stuff was my plants or other people's plants that I helped in the planting and the design here. So although it's been pretty crazy, I am happy with the project as it's been. And here's one more little treat down at the bottom. We got my Cactus Patch Kids, as I call them. If you know, you know. Here's my San Pedros. I will say that I don't do stuff like this anymore, but I still like having a cactus patch like this. So these are finally starting to really pop off, those San Pedro plants. All right, that's pretty much it. The sun's starting to set here. Anyone that was here with me, I am glad that you're here, and I hope that you enjoyed the garden tour here in beautiful San Clemente. Yes, these plants, they have a better view than I do. But you know what? It's kind of smoggy out there today. So anyway, take care. Have a good evening, everyone. Good night. How do I end it? Here we go. I'm such a boomer.